want it that straight.
Like me. I've never felt so alive.
I'll be here all night, folks.
I left the window open a little bit because I thought it looked nice. We do need some more light in this.
How dare you?
Oh, that is usually on.
What? The light in the back. Ooh, more light.
Let there be
8.
6,
I'm
5,
gonna
4.
start this thing here.
Okay, you still hear me? Yeah. Lovely. See what we get.
Okay, pretty sure that we're live now. Maybe. Are we? I think so. Well, yeah. No, I mean, I just remembered now that, well, let me do this first. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 16th episode of the Branch Out Podcast, hosted by Vince and Emmanuel.
Aloha. We are back after our, what was it, 2 weeks? 3 weeks off?
Did you all miss us?
What was it? I don't even remember. Was it 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Yes, it was so
Best 2
long.
weeks of my life.
So long.
Yeah, no, I hope everything is fine with the audio because before it was actually configured because I was working on a project and I forgot to change it, so.
If something's wrong,
If
put
it's
it in
wrong,
the chat.
let us know.
And today we are going to be talking about... Wow.
Ta-da!
What was that?
It was the build-up music.
Oh, was it? Okay. We planned that.
It's what we have.
Sounded like a siren.
I didn't. Okay, I didn't hear it. Whatever that was, I didn't hear it. So,
Okay.
just so you know,
That's not
I don't know if
comforting.
that.
Right. So today we're going to be talking about a certain high-profile court
Social
case.
phenomenon.
You could have said trial and then it would have rhymed. Profile trial. Go on.
I'm not a rapper. Yes, and we have with us today guest of honor, Michael Mizrany.
Mizrany?
Mizrany?
Yeah, I don't. I'm not picky about it. Yes.
What do you say?
Either of those. Mizrany, I think.
Mizrany.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's Italian, right?
It is actually a Lebanese origin.
Oh, I would not have guessed. Is there like
Well,
Lebanese way to say it?
put it like this: it's a Lebanese origin through like Americans, like some Lebanese that went to the States.
Mhm.
So if there is a Lebanese way of saying it, it would be unfamiliar to me.
Okay. Well, Michael. So Michael is here to discuss this very interesting topic with us. Actually, I came late to the whole topic. I heard sort of like background noise about it.
Yeah,
Not
I
really.
think I did as well, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's probably for all three of us. Me too.
Okay.
I only heard about it because I couldn't not hear about it because
Yeah,
everyone.
exactly.
Facebook seemed to be convinced that I needed to hear about it. So what I know about it is Facebook headlines. As I'm scrolling, I'm reading this. It's basically just the headlines because, of course, I can't be bothered to.
Yeah. Yeah. And as I became, I don't know at what point that I became really interested in it. It was probably only like maybe 2 weeks ago. And even then, it was sort of like, okay, it's sort of happening. Look into it a bit. Watch a couple of the live streams from the courthouse and so on, And then you
I
get
was scared to do that. I was scared to watch the live, because you click on it and then you just get more. You get more and more, and I was like, oh no, I don't think I want.
Algorithm.
I don't want to do that to myself.
anything.
Exactly.
The algorithms are after you.
Yeah.
But I really did come into it actually. How can I say this without sounding completely like a douche?
Oh, sound like a douche. Sound like that could be your niche. That could be your niche.
I came into it thinking like, yeah, he probably did some shit. Like that was
I think he probably wasn't blameless in whatever happened. I mean, he does have a history of drug abuse and whatnot.
I didn't even know that. See? I didn't even know that.
I think anyone who cares about him
Hollywood,
or knows about him like in his private life knows that, but I just know him from like a couple of the films that he's done.
Right.
I think most people.
Yeah.
It's like, ooh, there's Captain Jack Sparrow, basically.
Exactly.
Or the guy in that film.
Yeah.
No one even knew who Amber Heard was.
I actually didn't know.
I actually, never, let's say, heard of her. Before,
You can have a couple of those.
Sorry, someone was gonna do it. Someone was gonna do it. I figured it may as well be me.
Have you heard?
I think I actually met her once.
What?
Sort of. Yeah.
Did you survive?
I met. Well, she wasn't. She was actually.
How's your finger?
I'll just. No, actually, if it was her, here's the thing. I'm not actually sure it was her. It was like I met her. I knew that she was. Actually, I didn't know she was famous, but someone said, "Oh, I knew that someone famous was supposed to be in the room," and then I met her. And I didn't realize it was her, and someone said, "Oh yeah, that was her," and I was like, "Oh, who is she?" And someone just sort of gave me the name, and so I just sort of texted someone at home, "Oh, guess what? I just met this person who's apparently famous," And then that person said, "Oh, that's the girl that's having this thing with Johnny Depp," which I'd never. That was how I heard about her for the first time. And I was like, oh, "Okay, I don't care." But my impression of her. So if it's all right, if that was in fact her, and she was very charming. Very charming, and she had one of these like larger than life smiles that I just remember. I don't have a very good memory, but what I do remember is thinking that I felt like twice as important just by the fact that she was looking at me and smiling. And this is when I didn't know she was famous. Just the way she looked at me and smiled at me made me feel like there was a light shining on me, a spotlight, and I was like on stage, and suddenly I was like, it was very strange.
Maybe she thought you were Tom Cruise.
She probably thought you were famous or like John Wick or something.
No, unlikely. So that sort of tinted. I mean, that's how I heard of the case. Was like, oh, that's the girl that's suing Johnny Depp for.
Wait, so you're saying that you might have met her while the case was happening?
No, just
or before.
This is a couple. This was before. No, not the case. This is like before the pandemic, actually. Okay. It was.
She was with him at that point. Like how long?
She must have complained because when I told whoever it was I texted, oh, I met so and so. She's like, I'm not a big fan of her right now. She's being a bitch to Johnny Depp. So and that was all I know. I don't know at what point if she had prosecuted or what had happened at that point. But anyway, that was. So but I was sort of like, oh, okay, well, lucky Johnny.
Or not.
Well, I had no real idea at that point.
Right.
So. But anyway, that kind of started me off on her side, just because she was so, pretty and charming. I had not yet had the pleasure of watching her talk about, her dog stepping on a bee or anything like that. Yeah.
So what was when you heard about the case itself and you became at some point interested in it, did you have some kind of bias as to, initially as to who would be guilty or No, I just sort of referred to the expertise of the court. Okay. I have very little faith in humanity, so it's like I can be a fan of someone and think someone's great. Like I think Johnny Depp, I really enjoy watching Johnny Depp work. So, but that is not enough for me to sort of think, well, then he must be good. Like for me, it makes total sense because I know talented people, and talented people
tend to be like real asses, you know. Sometimes they can be very unpleasant. So it like would not have shocked me.
You're not talented, right?
Oh, there's no way. There's no way to come out. To come out good on this one.
The biggest insult you can give someone is "you're so nice." So that means you're talentless. There's no. You can't be both.
Yeah.
Actually, Johnny Depp seems to be very nice in person as well. At least from the people who I've seen over the years, like talk about him, they seem to really like him as a person. Like actor aside,
but isn't that also the same with Amber? Or like there are people coming out
impression of
talking about how she...
I think there's a bit of a difference in the kind of people that were on the stand for Amber and for Johnny Depp. I think in general the ones that were there for Johnny Depp seemed a bit more organic,
authentic.
Authentic, and the ones for her were like, were they paid?
What was that? Okay, well, I don't want to go off in a tangent, but. Yeah, so you were basically neutral. Like, you didn't really have a bias as to believe all women or believe all men.
I think I had been, because it was maybe around the time of the Me Too movement, and so I was aware that this was something that, as a society, women were feeling unsafe about coming out about abuse. So my instinct was like, oh, okay, we've been hearing about this. This is a time to kind of, you know, exercise this, you know, good faith at least. But I guess I never, just as I said about Johnny, I know how human nature works, and so while I didn't assume Johnny Depp was innocent, I also didn't assume that she was necessarily talented, because I've also known, you know, people in relationships, you know, they're crazy.
And Hollywood.
And yes. Hollywood. And what it boils down to is, I mean, this is basically like the druggy couple upstairs, and we're getting to listen to their arguments, right? That's basically what it is, except they're a little more famous than the druggy.
Yeah, if they live upstairs, you're doing well.
Yeah.
And you, Vin? Were you, like, when you first became interested, did you find yourself?
You're assuming I became interested.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it is. I'll say this: it's a very entertaining case.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like even if you think that this is a very sad thing that's happening, very unfortunate, which it is. Fuck, it's fun to watch. It's so janky.
What was your initial thought? Like, before you even saw any of the footage, or you just knew that they were accusing each other of
Well, first off,
abuse.
I ran into it on YouTube or on TikTok, one of those. And it was just footage of the case, and I first thought was, oh, I haven't seen Johnny Depp in a while. Good to know he's still there. And then, oh, I didn't know he was with Amber Heard. Okay, that's good to know. Oh, they're doing this now. And social media and YouTube did a pretty good job of basically informing you about every little nitty-bitty gritty about their intimate personal lives. And the court case was obviously televising a bunch of their personal disputes. So one of the first things I actually ran into in that case was that recording, the infamous recording of her basically saying, "I didn't punch you, I was hitting you."
Oh.
And I thought, that's a little bit. I don't like that.
She didn't say slap either.
Oh wait, who said that? She had said that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. I thought he had said that. I'm not punching you, I'm hitting you. Okay.
No,
but you know what? Who hasn't said that? That's what gets to me. Like, who hasn't said that? I'm sure I've said that to someone.
I don't know, people that don't like do this.
I'm not punching your ass. I'm just
kicking you.
Look, I'll show you what a punch is, okay?
Yeah. I'm just spanking you. It's different. Spanking is done in love.
You,
So no pre-bias. You didn't have any bias.
Well, obviously I like Johnny Depp for his films, and I also thought that him as a person seemed to be a lot more organic than she was. And I wasn't sure if people...
Authentic.
Yeah, authentic. I wasn't sure if people were cherry-picking moments of the trial where he seemed more authentic or she seemed the least authentic. But at this point, I think it's pretty Yeah.
But you didn't like, because me,
I didn't really have
before
a bias, like, oh, he has to be the nice guy, or she.
No, but like even a leaning. Did you even have a leaning?
I mean, I didn't really care enough to have a leaning.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just noticed that I had it wasn't like a strong leaning, but it was definitely like a background leaning that I had, and it was just like a knee-jerk reaction when I first found out that they were doing this suing each other thing over abuse. I just sort of had a knee-jerk reaction like, Johnny, what did you do? You know, that was kind of my first.
Okay.
Yeah.
She didn't sue him though, did she?
Yeah. She countersued.
When?
That's what the whole thing
That's
was.
what started it.
I thought, no, he was suing her.
Yeah.
No,
And
for
then-
suing him.
Yeah.
For ruining his career by suing him.
I thought that the trial was based on the op-ed that she wrote.
Yeah.
But that wasn't suing him.
So he sued her for that,
Yeah.
and then she countersued him for.
Okay.
At the same time?
Yes.
So she's been suing him this whole time.
Both of them have been suing each other. That's
Oh,
why she.
Okay, so if he was to lose,
She was
he
awarded
would...
2 million, and he was awarded 10 point whatever million.
Yeah,
That's why.
that's one thing I didn't understand. Why did she even get anything?
Because she was countersuing him at the same time.
What the fuck? So I could sue you,
Oh, yeah.
and then I
I
just
can
automatically
countersue.
get
No, no.
money from you. That's
No.
No, but I guess it's just it's kind of dumb. But like, what do you think? In a relationship squabble, they both did stupid, bad stuff, and so if you take that to court, I mean, what kind of result? What kind of verdict do you think you're going to get? Well, you guys were both naughty, so that's 2 million for you, but you were worse, so that's 13
That's
million
kind of what
for
it
you.
seems like happened, yeah. But
That's
his
what
trial
happened.
wasn't for abuse; it was for defamation.
Yes.
Yeah,
Correct.
and she was suing him. You don't sue someone for abusing you. You
No, she was suing for defamation as well.
How is he defaming her?
Because in order for him to clear his name, he had to bring
You
out
had to
certain
call her
things.
a liar.
He
You had to call her a liar, yeah, and yeah.
So I think
You beat me. No, I didn't. I'm gonna sue you for saying that. What the fuck?
if I remember correctly, he sued for 50 mil, and she countersued for 100.
So how did they walk
And if
away
there was a
with 10
third,
mil?
a third
What?
person, they would have countersued for 150. That's how it works. So,
And he must know she doesn't have 100 mil or 50 mil.
no,
Like, apparently she can't
that's-
even pay the
yeah,
10.
They know that. It's just yeah. But at what point in your odyssey with the case did you guys sort of start to see things coming through a bit clearer? Like who was probably...
I guess I have sort of a meta opinion. Like, I don't really have an opinion about the private lives of these two people that I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like I just learned, like, okay, well, you know, these two people that are famous did this, and I'm not really sure why I need to know this, but okay, fine. You know, everyone's a little curious. We're all a bit gossipy, and we all want to peek on the neighbors and listen at the wall to hear their screaming, and, you know, listen to them throwing dishes around and stuff like that. It's kind of, I don't know, we're horrible like that, I guess, as a species. And when I say we, I don't actually mean me. I'm not that interested.
I was wondering. Those French are
But
lively.
okay, no. What I guess how it developed was when I heard that there was. Are you guys hearing that dinging thing?
Nope.
No, that's just me. Okay, that's fine. It's
in
just
your
me.
head.
Yeah. All right. So how it evolved was when I found out that Disney had cut contracts with Johnny. I was like, oh, why? And it was like, oh, because of that thing with Amber. And I was like, oh, come on.
Mm-hmm.
And I sort of felt the same, have been feeling the same. And so my opinion, which is what I started out by saying, my opinion is more about the phenomena and cancel culture and the role that the individual suddenly feels the responsibility to play. Like, it just pisses me off that people are going to not watch the movie, like, signing petitions that Amber Heard be canceled because of what she did to Johnny. Like, did your parents or teachers never tell you the whole two wrongs don't make a right thing? Like, it was wrong when we did it to Johnny Depp. it was wrong when we made a conclusion about something we weren't sure about. We just sort of we didn't leave it to the courts, because that's what the court is there for. We didn't leave it to the court. We didn't leave it to the professionals. We didn't leave it to the people whose job it was to go over the evidence. We didn't leave it to them. We were like, oh, well, and when I say we, I mean Disney, actually. They decided, well, we can't keep making movies with him because that's going to look bad for us. I mean, it's not entirely Disney's fault. They have a bit of a point. The woke crowd up there they'll demonize us. We'll lose. I mean, Disney has a certain reputation to keep. They've got to be clean, family. Well, I don't know. They're kind of screwing that up these days a bit.
Family friendly.
But they're supposed to be. They're supposed to be not promoting edgy stuff. They're supposed to keep it clean and
like
family
men
entertainment.
Women.
Yeah. So it's not entirely their fault, but I do kind of I do despise them a little for that. Like, I'm like,
but that they canceled him like before it was even known, or like before we even knew for sure what had happened. Just the possibility.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Just the fact that Amber Heard, it was like guilty.
Well,
I mean,
it's like
not even guilty
if they
until proven
believe
innocent.
that enough of the public, enough of their customer base believes that he's an abuser, they know that this isn't going to go well if we cast him in a film. So just monetarily didn't make sense. Even though I think that was a mistake.
What do you think about that? Like, do you think what if it wasn't Johnny? What if it was some actor that you really actually don't care about? You know, maybe even an actor you don't like. And it turned out that he was a wife beater, or whatever. Would you think that was good reason to cut him out of?
Well, you saw what happened. Like,
you mean
a
like
good example,
actually, or just accused of?
Well, okay. Well, I mean, let's just let's say actually. Let's say actually. Let's
well,
say
a good example
is
Kevin Spacey, right? So he was in the huge series House of Cards, right, which was super popular, and they were doing that, and I believe they were going to do a final season, and he's not in that because he was, well, it came out that he was a pedophile, or at least a groomer, something like this.
Adjacent.
He did some naughty stuff. So they basically cut him out of that, even though he was the star actor in it. So yeah, they essentially canceled him. For that.
What do you think? What do you think of that? Is that good? Is that?
I would be okay with that.
Well, I think from a business standpoint, it makes sense. I think it's different. Like if your employer, if your public, if the public's perception of you has no bearing on the financial income of a company, and you just do something which the company says it's like, it's not very nice, you do it in your private life, and they fire you for that. Well, that I think is that's just stupid. But in this case, there was an actual monetary reason why they had to let him go, because otherwise they would be seen as supporting someone.
So as a business decision, like if we keep him in the last episode or whatever, the last season, it's going to ruin the business because we know how people are going to respond. Now,
it could even potentially ruin the previous episodes, even though I think they're already kind of ruined.
So first question: did they predict that was the way would people have really responded that way, or are they trying to encourage, like, set an example, like, look, we're going to kick him out, and if you aren't all excited about this, it's because you're not cancelly enough? Like,
I think they're definitely going to use that as the argument. They're not going to say we did this for money. They're going to say we were morally obligated to set an example to the industry, something like this.
Signal virtual.
So they could actually.
I would almost.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then it makes it unclear for me where to put the blame for this particular phenomenon that's just really annoying me. But, like, put it like this. If he was guilty of that, whatever it was. Did he go to court for? Did someone take him to court for it? Did he get fined? Did he get jail time? Did he get any?
I'm not sure exactly what happened to him.
Did he get found guilty? Did you know?
I think there was. I think he was found guilty. Yeah, I don't know. Like, don't quote me off of that. But
Okay.
I think there was undeniable evidence.
I think if you are taken to court and the court finds you guilty of a crime, essentially.
Right. Right. Okay. Like, for example, the thing with Amber Heard now, she's got to pay 13 million, I think it is now. That's the number I heard. That's what the court decided.
But neither of them has committed a crime. So it's not like...
Well, defamation is a crime.
No, but these payouts are more just like, oh, I'm suing you because you did this to me and I'm suing you. But they didn't actually commit any kind of, I don't know what the terminology would be, but they haven't actually committed a crime.
Well,
isn't defamation a crime?
In Switzerland it is, but I don't know.
In the
about
US,
the
it's
United
also
States.
a crime.
Is it? Yeah. I think that's why they're taking it to court.
Yeah, otherwise.
But here's the thing:
argument.
Like the court decided how much her offense. Let's call it an offense. You know, then maybe it's not a crime. I don't know, but whatever. They decided how much her offense was worth, and now she has to pay that, and it is now no longer our business. Like, we don't also need to be martyrs by not watching a movie or by signing a little petition that she no longer be featured in movies. If she's a bad,
I agree.
For me, the only thing that the court case, the only thing that it does for me, like that has anything to do with me, is if she starts hitting on me, I need to know. No, you've been disqualified from being my girlfriend because I kind of, because I've decided that you are no longer.
So.
Or maybe you're up for the challenge. I mean, she was so warm.
I might still fall for it. Yeah, but that's not the point. The point is that if the court had decided she should now no longer be allowed to act in movies, well, then that's the court's decision. But that wasn't the court's decision.
Yeah.
So why do we add to her punishment?
I agree 100%.
I agree.
I would draw the line if the court found her guilty of physical abuse. Then, or found him guilty of physical abuse. That's I don't know in US law, do they have they have civil law and then they have different
felonies
criminalities, right? Yeah. There's felony, there's civil and so on. But basically if someone is found guilty of, cutting someone's leg off or,
misdemeanor.
Or something egregious like physical harm, that's where I would draw the line and I would say, yeah, it's pretty okay to drop that person.
Okay, so I guess my beef, as it were, is actually more fundamental. Like, it starts at this point where we seem there's this celebrity culture, right? And it's sort of like a religion, and no one would admit it, but it is a religion because, in what way I feel like it is? It's a religion in the sense that we put these people up as gods. We don't realize we do it, but then when something comes out that's like, oh, guess what? They're human. I mean, they're pretty sucky humans too, but who's not? But like they're really bad humans. We can no longer stand to leave them on that pedestal. That pedestal, they got to that pedestal because of talent, because of their looks, or I don't know what they're doing on that pedestal, but they got to that pedestal, and we kind of are holding them to this standard. And then when we find out that they're actually really bad people, they are disqualified from that pedestal. And I think that the only people who should be like that are people that we're looking to for some sort of moral guidance. Like if the Pope did something like that, or if some guru or some preacher or some self-help kind of person who was setting themselves up as a moral example, and it turns out they're doing things like that, well then yeah, you disqualify yourself from being a moral example. But if your profession is pretending to be a pirate, like yeah, well, I actually
pirate on top.
That's a good
drunken
point.
pirate.
Yeah.
I like, okay, so even if he was guilty of domestic abuse, he should get his fine. He should do his whatever the court says.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then, as far as I'm concerned, he's a good actor. He makes me laugh, and when I watch him playing Jack Sparrow, I'm not going to be feeling like, oh, this is such a glorification of domestic violence. Like, no, he's Jack Sparrow. This is a character that he's playing, and he's playing it well. I am not like when you have an actor who's a known drug addict. When they're playing the role of whatever role they're playing, you're not thinking, oh, this movie is really glorifying drug addiction. Like, no, it's not. In this movie, they're pretending to not be a drug addict. And that's what's being glorified. What's being glorified is what's in the movie. Violence, or if it's a movie where the hero is beating his wife in the movie, that's glorifying domestic violence. But like, for example, what was his name? Sean Connery. Like, he's got that whole, like, gentleman thing going, especially, like, it's James Bond. I saw a clip where he's talking about how sometimes you just need to slap a woman,
Backhand, never.
Like, you never saw that?
I saw that.
Yeah. Oh, you should check that out.
He was talking about like front and back of the hand, like which one's appropriate.
I think so. Yes. Yeah. That one. And I remember thinking, well, I don't agree with that, but that doesn't take away from the fact that that's never the role he plays. He's always.
And even if it was, I mean, he's just. Well, I guess he's not just acting at that point. Okay, actress is like, damn.
So the question for me then is, would you draw the line anywhere? And if so, where?
Personally, I wouldn't. I can understand that some other people would draw it closer. Like, for me, if you have to, like, basically get them out, pull them out of jail to do their scenes and then send them back to jail afterwards, and all the money goes to, charity. They don't get paid for it. They basically, I would be totally fine with watching that movie. I don't.
Okay.
It wouldn't bother me. Like.
Okay, so I heard, so you have this line that you draw for yourself, whether you want to see someone or not, depending on the quote crime that or whatever that they've done. And for you, you kind of base your own opinion and whatever they did separately, as long as their profession is separate from what they did, sort of.
Yeah. Well, as long as they're not. Their crime is not being promoted in the movie,
right?
It's completely. I mean, why should I have to suffer not being able to watch a really good movie because of his crime? He should do his jail time. He should pay his fine, But I should still get to watch my, my movie. I mean, I'm not much of a movie watcher myself.
I'm
principle,
with you on that. Although I have a little extra thing on there. So I do think if someone commits an actual crime and they get convicted of it and they have an appropriate punishment, the punishment fits the crime. That's it. Anything above that happens to their bottom line or to their reputation, that's additional to the punishment. So you could argue that that's too much. But in this particular instance where their job is literally to have people like them, like if people don't like them or how they act in movies, or like the characters they portray, it all has to do with perception of them or whoever they're portraying. If people don't like that anymore, they can't perform their job properly.
Yes. Basically, in order to fix the problem, everyone in the world would have to think like me, and then the production companies would be in a position to say, well, it's not going to affect the success of the movie.
Well, in that case, the production companies would be motivated to keep them on because they're a good actor, they've been in the movies before.
Yeah.
They would get more money by keeping them. Yeah.
But like you pointed out, Michael, the whole celebrity scene has become, like you said, more like a religion. It's become worship of these people.
Yes. And that is what bothers me. I feel like that is what made me why I wanted to even be involved in this conversation, just because it was just starting to piss me. I don't care actually about Amber or Johnny. What's bothering me is just watching these holy people speak so piously about strangers. and coming up with opinions like,
you
oh
mean
yeah,
like
you
the
needed
public?
that.
Or...
No, yeah, just on Facebook.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
actually, I never read the articles about them. I actually just look at the comments and just like get myself wound up watching these warriors who defeat evil by refraining from watching a movie, a film.
No, that's stupid. Yeah.
How dare you?
And they're like, no, well, I'm sorry, I don't want to give my money to people like that. Like, give your. I mean, she just lost.
Just pirate it.
She just lost 13 million. So.
I think she'll be all right.
Your €5 cinema ticket is not going to be like, haha, I'm getting away with it after all. It's like, come on. I just, yeah.
My reaction to the celebrity thing though is exactly what my reaction would be if it was someone working in the grocery store or like that's how, like, if I knew that the butcher here in town was convicted of beating his wife, sorry, you lost a customer. Like, I would
buy your meat. You'd buy your meat elsewhere?
Absolutely. Like, that's just me.
What if he was convicted of it and punished for doing that?
Yeah.
Like, he'd just come back from prison for X amount of time for doing it, and he learned his lesson.
Well, even if he didn't learn, I mean...
Well, if he's still doing it, then, you have another issue.
No. I mean, well, he's single now, so he's paying that, he's...
Maybe
and everyone knows about it. He's never going to get another girlfriend because everyone knows better now. And so he's basically just living out the rest of his life.
It's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult because that's sort of how society works, right? We alienate the people who do horrific things, and there is a good point to that.
We're so self-righteous.
No, like, but if you have someone who's like murdering people, okay, then I'm sorry. Like, I don't want to have a rapist.
Exactly.
I don't want to have a rapist in my party.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Somebody who right. But if what we're talking about here, I mean, I don't really understand. I don't have any experience with domestic violence. I've never been in my home was. I've never lived even really with neighbors who does. I don't really know the nature of it. From what I understand, it's just broken people taking out their toxic, festering dysfunctions on the nearest thing to them. Which is maybe their kids, maybe it's their wife, maybe it's their husband. So this is somebody who, after being kind of worn out by life, they go home, have a drink, get depressed, and start kicking and punching shit. Like, it's horrible. I'm not justifying it at all, but I just understand that some people are weak. They should be punished because, and I believe that punishment is a deterrent. They should be deterred. If they are a threat, the threat should be removed. They're beating their kids. They should have their kids taken away. They're beating their spouse. They should be separated. If they're going out and beating people on the street, they should be locked into prison. That's a good reason to be put in prison. But once the court has said, okay, well, you owe this much money to so-and-so, you're doing this much time in jail, blah, 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 I just, maybe subconsciously I'd go to the other butcher. And I wouldn't be able to tell you why.
I just found myself here miraculously.
Especially if you have the choice, then it's like, why not go to the other one?
I probably would.
I think it's also a human instinct to not want to share or support someone who is bad for the group. You want to invest your resources into the positive members of the group to make the group stronger. Like, if there's a guy killing the best members of the group, you're not going to give your last apple to him. Like,
right, yeah.
I think it's all about, like, the gradient, right? It's like, I can see myself, like, the question of a path to redemption in society, for example. I can see myself going to the butcher if I think that the person has really done their time. Then I can see myself going back. I can. but it's definitely not without some thought.
Maybe my problem is that I think that basically everybody has something that bad, and it's just that we don't know it. My assumption is my assumption is that everyone probably has something that if you knew that secret would make you think, oh, I'm going to go buy from the other shop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe a serious thing, maybe not serious, but like we don't.
Again, the gradient. It depends because if we're talking about murder, I don't think, I don't.
And then and then afterwards it becomes, for me, it becomes, am I the jury and executioner? If I am, then you're absolutely right. I should be withholding my support and my help, and I should be ostracizing them if I am the jury and executioner. But if I'm not, then it's like I don't like that world where it's not just that I don't like it, it's not sustainable. That world where we all get to add on top of we've got to become our own little jury, usually from a place of ignorance, and then add to making people's lives miserable because we think.
Mm-hmm. I guess that's why most of the time infamous people, they tend to pick up and move, so that and then they just appear somewhere in some little village and everyone's wondering like, where?
I think it's also when someone does something bad, it's harder in general to empathize with them. You feel more like, they did this thing, they need something to happen to
Penance.
them. Yeah,
I guess I don't know.
So even if something bad does happen to them, the punishment,
it depends
to the crime,
how bad.
You don't empathize with that as much. You don't
empathize
something else
with bad
to happen.
I don't know. For me, this is going to sound horrible, but when I hear about certain kinds of crimes, I actually empathize with that person, not because I sympathize and think that the crime is okay, but because I'm sort of like, well, there, but by the grace of God, go I. Like that person got it. It could have been me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I really,
I understand. How do you think when you do that? Like what has to happen to you?
Yeah, there is a threshold that they crossed that I never crossed. That they did it and I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I don't know, for me, temptation is so like I like live on the edge of doing so many horrible things that I don't do. And when I hear about someone who did it, I'm like, oh my God, it's just that easy. I feel sad. I feel sad for the human condition. I actually tend to empathize with people when I hear that they've done something bad, especially if it's something that I could easily picture myself being tempted to do. Yeah.
There's also social pressures. If you are sort of like in a small community or in a community that people kind of know one another in, and then this person is found to have done this thing and maybe even done their time and so on, paid their fines and whatever. It's this weird thing where there's going to be people avoiding that person, and then that's going to have this ripple effect just because it's just going to, and then the people who go out, it's going to be people going out of their way to interact with this person, and they're going to also then be looked at by probably the majority of the community as sort of like, what are those people up to? Mingling with the whatever.
Yeah.
So the social pressure is also huge. Like if you see people avoiding the butchery, right? Like it's gonna happen.
Right.
It's the other butcher is suddenly gonna have twice the volume or whatever, and the poor, well, I don't know about poor, but the other butcher is just gonna be like, serving a couple pieces of meat to a couple people on the weekend, and that's it. It's probably gonna go bankrupt. So.
Yeah.
Shit happens. Pick up and move.
So what do you guys actually think of the verdict? Did you guys...
I watched the reading out of...
Yeah, that was brutal.
Yeah, it was pretty... okay.
Do you guys think that was the right decision?
It seemed like it. I mean,
they make it sound like it. I mean, that's kind of their job to believe that it was the right decision. And then
well, if you had to make the decision, if you were one of the jurors there, and you'd seen the attorneys and their arguments and the witnesses and their answers, would you have come to the same conclusion?
From what I saw, and I didn't see a whole lot, but I did have it playing on the side for some hours, and from what I heard and saw, it was definitely more convincing to me from Johnny Depp's legal team than from Amber Heard's.
Yeah,
Amber Heard's legal team seemed to be relying more on obstructing the other legal team rather than building their own case. And
I thought they had very little to do with evidence.
Yeah,
what they were trying to do. It was basically their entire aim was to discredit Johnny's credibility.
Yeah,
and the witnesses from Johnny's
any witnesses.
Yeah, and it was just discrediting.
It kept backfiring as well, which was like
because if they're actually credible, then it's like, oh shit.
Yeah. And then they had who was that crazy
the psychiatrist dude?
Yeah. Oh my god. Like this guy was insane.
That guy was such a narcissist. Holy shit.
I don't know. Like what the fuck were they thinking putting that guy up there?
That's the thing. A lot of these witnesses that came on for Amber Heard, like what the fuck?
I thought someone had doctored the video or something when I first saw him. I was like, nah.
Yeah, and Johnny Depp's reaction was like, it's like, what the fuck?
He's on more than I am.
Imagine being like that guy's patient. I would go out worse than I came in. Like,
that was crazy. That was scary. And then seeing, I forget her name,
Miss Curry.
No, the attorney for Johnny Depp.
Camille Vasquez.
Yeah. Watching her do that number on Amber Heard
for
regarding
the pledge.
The pledge donation thing. I was like, I don't know if Amber Heard is that stupid or if she's just acting.
I think she was trying to act.
I think she was trying to avoid. I think that the truth was not such a bad thing. The fact that she had not yet given the money that she as long as she had that money reserved, like aside, maybe she was not, like she said, she was not able to come through on that pledge. So, it sounds bad, but for me, it's understandable. But it makes such a horrible soundbite. I can understand why she didn't want to bite. Like she was like refusing to say. She handled it not well.
But I watched that whole sequence several times, and it was quite a long stretch.
Yes.
And finally,
the judge was just doing this.
Finally, the judge is like, "Next question, question," because it was just
like. It was like Joe versus the volcano. I know you can do the job, but can you get the job? I know that. I know you can.
It's like, no, that's not my question.
So you did not give it. Yes, I did pledge it. So you didn't give it. Yes,
donate.
You're not allowed to use that word anymore. I promised it.
But then when Amber Heard actually, that golden line where she says, I use those two words synonymously. Like when I say pledge, I mean donation. And it's just like,
okay, but they don't mean the same thing. It's very clear they don't.
When I say giraffe and horse, I mean the same thing.
If you're listening charitably, you can understand what she's saying, and it winds up not being so bad. But if you're not, and of course the opposing team is not going to listen charitably, and anybody who hates her is not going to listen charitably, it was not a very strong response. It was not a safe response.
Well, I think she did have the ability to actually donate it because she got the money. Like at that point, she could have donated it, like as soon as she gotten it.
Didn't she say there was like a year or two?
Yeah, there was. She had time to pay it, but she just pledged it, and then she only paid like a few thousand. But the fact that she refused to admit that she didn't donate it, that showed to me like she was really trying to hide something. Like just admit it and say like I was gonna, but then I got sued.
Yeah.
At the end, she said that after like being really pushed. I pledged it, but then I got sued. The way she always looked to the side as well, that really pissed me off.
Yeah, she kept like ignoring the attorney and
she's just looking at the jury.
Looking to the jury.
Save me. One of the most damning things I saw when she was on the witness stand being questioned about like the makeup and the bruises and whatnot, she said, "I had my bruise kit." I don't know if you guys saw that clip.
No.
And so she was basically saying like she was covering up bruises with makeup. That's why she wasn't seen with them all the time. She said she had her bruise kit, and then she corrected herself saying, "Or I called it my bruise kit." Funnily enough, there's actually a little makeup kit that actors use, and it is called a bruise kit, and it's specifically made to make bruises on yourself. So
like it's got the blue and the purple and stuff like that.
Yeah. So to me that was like
ouch. I had my bruise kit.
Yeah. And the fact that she corrected herself saying, "Or I called it that." Like, you didn't have to correct yourself if there wasn't a meaning behind the word bruise kit. And she knew it did. And the fact that she said that, as her attorney, I'd just be like, this is impossible. Like, what are you giving us to work with? Yes, I took the shit.
I bet the lawyer wanted to fire her.
Oh my god. Why is her attorney still defending her? It's only the one as well. I haven't seen Mr. Rottenborn say anything.
And that, I mean, in a sense, that's admirable, because that person's probably never going to get another job.
What, the attorney?
Well, first of all, for being the spokesperson for someone so hated, and secondly,
such
believing.
a shit job. Like,
well,
like if she'd won, at least there'd be that, like, hey, kudos, even though the world hated you, you still won, so hey. But here, it's like you lost and you, image and everything.
It's probably a very difficult case for her attorneys, to be fair, to come up with arguments. Like, I wouldn't want to be in their position. Although, at the same time, I don't have much sympathy for them, since I'm pretty sure they knew like what the truth was and were actively trying to not uphold that.
That's the case,
which is
always
their job.
Yeah.
But if
That's
they
what
fuck up that,
yeah.
then that's their fault. Like, they knew what the consequence was.
Yeah, but they have to give it their best shot.
They just, they could have said, "I'm not taking this case."
There's money in it.
Lawyers,
Yeah, and then there's consequences.
They get their money.
Sure, yeah.
That's what you do, right?
Yeah.
Someone has to defend the pedophile, the rapist, the murderer.
Well, she appealed it, so they might actually... I'm assuming that's why she's still defending Amber. The one attorney, I don't know what her name is.
The middle-aged older woman?
Yeah, the Amica Cream one.
The short hair.
Yeah. So I'm guessing she still wants to be on the team, even though I thought her arguments were really, really
Team
bad.
Herd. Yeah. Well, do we want to...
And the big issue...
Mm-hmm.
Big issue in this whole thing, I mean, that actually you'd almost expect that we would have been talking about, is the whole... Well, the whole, misogyny, patriarchy, and the kind of stab in the back that Amber did to the real victims of domestic violence. Just when women were starting to get some sort of encouragement, not encouragement, but like some support, like, okay, well, now we're actually going to listen to you. And then she comes and pulls this number, such a high profile number. It's such a gotcha moment for everybody who was against that. Like, see, that's what bitches will do if you let them, if you give them a voice and actually take them seriously. They'll just.
True. Yeah.
And without irony, did you hear what her response was to the verdict? It was exactly that.
Yeah, she said that.
I couldn't believe that was her response, because it was like she didn't get that she was the one who wound back the clock.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, maybe she didn't understand that.
No, she said it like, oh, now we've
what did
wound
she
back
actually
the clock
believe?
to more misogynistic times or whatever. Yeah. But just like Michael, like you just said, she's actually done the damage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Although at the same time, there has also been improvement on the other side, showing, oh yeah, when men can be abused as well. It's not only
no, but for women.
Yeah. So there was damage done on the ability of women to come forward, but there was improvement done on the ability of men to come forward.
Sure.
So.
But she was talking about women. Yeah. She was like, oh. No.
Yeah.
She's not going to say, well, at least also men can come forward more.
Yeah.
Good for you.
She's like, put on the plus side.
The positive.
Always look on the bright side of life. Yeah, that's true. This is true.
But at the same time, I want to wonder, like, I say we as a society, not me personally, we were quite quick to dump Johnny, and I mean, even the people who really loved him, were really sort of shaken by the news. Like, it did ruin his reputation, because people did, and I'm wondering, like, I don't know, people believed you. Heard, that is, like, what does this actually say? Like, we do say, women are not, people think they're making stuff up and they don't believe them, but I don't know, I don't see it. Like, we actually turned against an actor that we really liked because of what you said.
We did, but this proved that was not the right thing to do.
But I don't feel like the world changed that much. I don't feel like the world that they're complaining about, the whole Me Too thing, where it's so dangerous for women to come out. Like, what changed so much that made us ready to listen to Amber?
I think what improved is people, I think, are going to think twice more when an allegation comes out. Like you said, like, they had initially believed Heard, and now the tables have turned and they believe Johnny. So maybe people are going to be more ready to think, maybe this is one of those cases where it seems black and white, but it's actually not as clear.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think that as a species, we'd learn some humility. Like, look, we heard a bad story about Johnny Depp and we dumped him, and now we realize how bad it was. Now we're dumping her, and like. But I don't think that we're actually. I think the next accusation, it's going to be lots of polarized responses. Exactly, like, there's not going to be that humility. Like, hey guys, let's put the brake on it. Remember what we did to Amber and Johnny, and remember how stupid we looked, for making hasty decisions that were none of our business. How about we slow it down? I don't think that's going to be the response. I think it's going to be wound up even more. Next time a woman makes an accusation against a man, it's going to be like, hey, just another Amber Heard, on one side, and then there's going to be the, long live the patriarchy, kind of coming from the other side. All I can say is this: Johnny Depp would have not had this much trouble if he just had a stamp collection. I'm just saying.
So much easier and more replaceable.
Do we want to cut to break now? Because I have something that I want to segue into.
Okay.
It is connected to this talk. Yeah. Do we want to have a 5-10 minute?
Sure.
All right.
And
then we'll get back.
See you guys in 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. We are back.
Are we back?
Yeah.
Yes. Yay.
So, commence the segue.
Okay. So, it is not completely off tangent here, but it definitely has to do with what we were talking about earlier. And specifically, it was, like I said at the beginning, I had this bias before I had even watched any of the videos or paid any attention. I just heard that this was happening, and like I said, my knee-jerk reaction was, "Oh, Johnny, what did you do?" And so I sort of wanted to check that, like, why did I have that first reaction? And so I started thinking about, okay, well, you know, stuff relating physical violence in society. Typically, when we hear about some physical assault occurring or whatever, especially if there's a male and a female involved, I think most people in society would go towards jumping to the conclusion that the male is the perpetrator and the female the victim. And I'm not saying that's wrong, because actually, statistically speaking, that's pretty much borne out. But as I was thinking about it, there was something else that was even, I would say, simpler. There was something else that was simpler, that was why I was making this knee-jerk reaction, why I had this bias. And that was something, how can I put this? That it's kind of like, I think generally women tend to be more, they try to avoid conflict. And when I say conflict, I don't just mean physical conflict, like physical abuse or physical violence, physical stuff. I just mean conflict in general, whether it's that end of the spectrum, which is like the physical side, or whether it is sort of conflict of mind. So conflicting views, thoughts, what have you. And because we generally, I think it is true, at least from my experience and from what I know about reality, I think it's true that women, or the feminine, tends to avoid conflict a lot more readily than the masculine. And because of that, we tend to, when we see conflict occurring, or we hear of conflict occurring, we tend to, especially if it's the physical kind, we tend to, just sort of deduce, it most likely, the woman is not the one who initiated the conflict. In my own experience, this has, like I said, it's not just about physical stuff. It's also about having difference of opinion, like, for example, just disagreeing with people, being disagreeable. And some of that, I think, has to do with women tend to view social bonding as much more important than men do. I think men have the proclivity to sort of be more independent and sort of, I want to do my thing, I want to explore, I want to get out there and do my thing, basically the way that I want to. And women tend to look to society for basically, how do you say, like...
Well, they want the world to be a safe place for them, basically. That men are a little bit more reckless, and I suppose that includes with confrontation as well. Whereas women are just more careful because they're building. I mean, they're building. Men do it as well, but I think men are just more reckless. But women, and I would go so far as to say that like between any stronger and weaker, like if you have a stronger force and a weaker force, like, clearly it's not Ukraine that's going to invade Russia, right? Like, why would Ukraine invade Russia? That just wouldn't happen. If someone said, the Ukraine, if Putin tried to say, well, we're invaded them because they declared war on us, I got a letter from them saying we declare war, so we're just fighting back. No one would believe him because, like, why the hell would Ukraine declare war on Russia? That just doesn't make sense. And so I kind of feel like a little guy, if the big guy says, I punched him because he was, attacking me out of nowhere. It's sort of like, really? That guy decided to attack you out of nowhere? That's brave. That's brave. But, that just doesn't seem plausible.
Sounds stupid.
Men in generally I shouldn't even have to say this. Men physically are just more powerful than women on average.
Yeah.
Especially if you're in the middle section, not on the extremes.
Your average girl and your average guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so when you hear conflict, especially a physical one between a man and a woman, you think the man has the control over that situation. And if he's to say, I didn't have the control over it, she was the one in control, you think, really? But you're a man. Like, you should have, whatever she did, you should have been able to react.
Yes.
But the fact is, if you're two adult people, you can still inflict damage on one another.
Yeah.
But
the underlying thing that kind of I got to the point about thinking about was that we know as a society, God, it's annoying hearing myself sometimes in the headphones because as a society, that's okay. We know very clearly, it seems, when let's say the masculine goes too far. We know when guys go straight to using physical force to solve their problems, right? We know what that looks like. But on the other end of the spectrum, so that is sort of like if you think about avoidance of conflict versus seeking conflict, right? So those are the two polarities. And you'll have the masculine polarity, which is seeking conflict, or, oh yes, now I get to punch someone in the face. And then you have the other end of the spectrum, which is a complete avoidance of conflict. And the thing that I got to thinking about was, we know what the one end of the spectrum looks like, and we can all look at that and go, that's bad. But the other end of the spectrum is a lot quieter. It's passive. It's harder to see because physically it's also harder to see. It's harder to experience. But as I started thinking about this, I found myself in places in my mind where seeking to avoid conflict can actually be very detrimental to yourself, to the people around you, and so on, but in a different way, not in sometimes even in a physical way. For example, if you are so deterred from conflict that you don't even defend yourself when you should, right? Physically again. But also, again, going back to the conflict of mind, if you do not, for example, stand up for yourself, or you don't stand up for your loved ones, the people you care for, and so on, there can be detrimental consequences for deterring, for avoiding conflict. And that seems to be something that society generally doesn't really acknowledge.
It's not promoted as much as it should be, definitely.
Yeah.
And especially now, it's like, stepping around glass when it comes to opinions and standing up for yourself. Since now with the internet and the higher prevalence of cancel culture, there's a very real fear, especially amongst young people who are basically growing up in this,
Mm-hmm.
about voicing your opinions. I think, correct me if I'm wrong here, you two would know this better than I, but in the past, people were more open with their opinions, no?
Yeah, I think so. Especially what I've seen really change is person-to-person contact.
Mm-hmm.
So not via the internet, but just meeting with people face-to-face, where I remember going to, you know, barbecues and grill pool parties and whatever, and just chatting with people, and it'll be like, oh yeah, and you find out this person has a different opinion about something than you do, and you're just talking about it and stuff. Nowadays, or in the last sort of 10 years or so, I just noticed over time it's become incredibly difficult in person to talk about opposing views. It's like, it's practically not done.
Do you two
Yeah.
have any opinion that you have right now that you wouldn't want the general world to know?
Yes, I do. What is it? God, I can't remember what it is.
You don't have to say it.
I'm sure I do. Yeah, but I want to be able to think to speak about it without saying it, but I can't actually remember what it is.
Would it be damaging to you if you said it?
You mean like
No.
socially?
Sure. Yeah.
I don't think so. I can't
Would that
remember
be
what
your
it is.
fault or their fault?
What?
Them being intolerant to your view? Or is it something that they would be correct in being like, oh yeah, that's fucked?
Well, of course, I think that what I think is correct. I mean, why would I think it otherwise? So that would be a
I
bit
feel like there's a middle ground.
psychotic. I believe something I know to be bullshit.
Yeah, I guess that's more in the direction of just like a thought you have or something you like. Because sometimes
I have been a little bit surprised over the last couple of years. Surprised by the reaction of some people that I always thought of as, cool and easygoing, and then the response to us having a different opinion on a certain type of topic, and I knew we were going to have a difference of opinion. I thought, okay, this is going to be fun. I'm going to bring that up because then, hey, we're going to have an interesting conversation.
Sure.
And they just shut down, and I just couldn't believe it, because I thought that's what crazy people with blue hair do. People that I don't know or don't hang out with or wouldn't make friends with in the first place. Just people who have brittle sensibilities that just like can't stand to hear somebody, but with a differing opinion. But no, this was somebody that I like had interesting conversations with before, and it was just. It kind of shatters, not my faith in human nature, that's kind of a bit dramatic, but it shatters what I think I know about human nature. Right. Put it like that kind of faith in human. Like, wait, I thought this kind of person would be able to handle that, and now suddenly I don't know how to read a room because the people that you think are really cool, now I don't know, like, how.
But did you previously get into sort of like non-frivolous, I don't want to say debates.
I've always been
with that person. I mean,
yeah, no, we had like, real conversations, and I felt like, not close friends, but like, So the intellectual rigor, the intellectual, richness of the conversations that we had, where we both kind of agreed and we were both sort of contributing something to it, led me to believe that same intellectual rigor would only be sort of excited by conflict,
opposing
but
view.
And opposing, but then it just so wasn't.
Wow.
And I was like, okay.
Do you think it might have been, because sometimes I get the impression from some people like opposing views are generally okay, but then there's like one or two things, right? And if you get onto those things and you oppose them, those things are like what we would call trigger trigger points or something.
One thing that it might be that does it is that they associate talking points, or they associate beliefs or opinions with certain types of people. So basically, when you mention one sort of opinion, they are probably equally surprised. Like, oh my God, I thought you were cool, and it turns out you're one of those horrible people. I'm not even going to talk to you anymore.
Yeah,
right.
So because you just sort of, in their head, you just sort of said, I'm one of those people that, whatever, hates women, or whatever it is that's attached to, and they are not interested in seeking out the nuance of like, how come you are supporting this one thing that those horrible people are also supporting. Yeah. But I know you, and I know you're not horrible. So what's the
But it's like they ignored that. Like they've spoken with you, and they know, this person, like they've built a little bit of rapport with you, so they know that this isn't.
They see it the same. Like what I just said about losing faith in human nature. Like
they see it the other way.
You were cool, and like out of nowhere, it turns out you're a fascist. Yeah.
I've literally had this occurrence like just a few months ago with someone who we've known each other for nearly 10 years, and this person like found out that I had a certain view on something. Yeah, I'm being very careful.
Care to share with
now.
The class?
No, I'm being careful.
It's one of those, eh?
And this person contacted me, wrote me, and literally said, I can't believe you have such disgusting views. I wish I never knew you or what your views were. Damn. And I was just like...
I wish I never knew what your views were? So they wish they'd never knew
that I had those views.
So they could continue chilling with you.
I guess. So they, like, whatever, man.
So what, they want fake people? That actually makes sense. Those are the only ones they can tolerate.
But, like, I had this happen, and it was, wow.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah. I guess there's just such fundamentally different kind of people out there that, like, I personally don't understand people who don't enjoy conflict.
Well, challenge, right? Like a challenge. Like people who don't enjoy a challenge.
No, like somebody who, like, okay, what I really like, I have a friend, and I've known her online. I've known her for a few years, and we never agree about anything. Like we always, like every conversation, but the way that we talk, I mean, I hope I'm as entertaining to her as she is to me, but like, she's just, I don't know. For me, it's perfect. Exactly the kind of conversation I want to have. There's not that judgment, like, okay, I'm moving you away because you're this horrible person. It's sort of like we're just engaging with ideas. And I don't know what it is. Maybe something about the way she interacts with me lets me believe that she believes that I'm fundamentally not a horrible person. So that whatever it is we disagree on, we can talk through it and find out. Because, I mean, hopefully she knows at the end of the day, I am not a malevolent person. I'm a what do you call it? Self-rebuking kind of person. Like, I'm not the kind of person who always believes that I'm right when I see that I'm wrong. When I, it's difficult to get there, but when I do, I'm like, whoa, okay, that needs to change. I need to be better. I'm not somebody who bends the standards to who I am. I bend myself to the standards to my ideas. I have ideas, and I submit my personality to those ideas. And I have, levels where I fail. I'm like, I failed that. I did not live up to. And I guess the fact that she acts like she respects me as a person, even though she respects none of my opinions. I'm totally fine.
Okay,
but that's totally fine with that.
And it's very respectable. That's true tolerance right there.
Right.
Yeah.
Actually, that's very true.
Yeah.
And ironically, most of those people who
we're intolerant.
Flip the fuck out are people who think of themselves as really tolerant.
Yeah.
No.
Sorry,
definitely.
what?
Oh no, the thing you said.
Oh.
Now, when it comes to people that I don't agree with, or back to that thing of these opinions that can kind of bite you in the ass, socially or professionally. In the past, I used to never voice any opinion which I thought could lead to a conflict. And I don't mean a physical one. And I learned pretty quickly that first off, that's just not a long-term solution to anything.
Right.
And it also comes from a place of insecurity, because you yourself don't feel like you're worth having people knowing the truth about you. You're hiding behind a facade. And at the end of the day, then you're having people around you who don't even know who you are. And if someone finds out who you are and doesn't want to be around you anymore, you shouldn't want to have that person around under a fake guise. And basically understanding that was like, oh, okay, yeah, so being myself is the best way to surround myself with people that actually
know who I am.
Yeah, and are there.
Who know me.
So in general, I do my best to not hide behind anything when it comes to my own opinions. The only situations where I do that is if there are consequences other than just conflict. If there's actual like to my well-being as a person, or to like my future,
your other interests,
or my career or whatever,
finances,
you know,
or whatever.
Yeah. In that case, it's the people usually involved in that are not people who need to know everything about me anyway.
Right.
So yeah.
I sort of come from. I'm a very or I was at least. I think I mellowed maybe a bit. I used to be very not confrontational, provocative. Like I thought that was fun. I and maybe as a musician, artist kind of person, I had this instinct to look inside myself and find the weirdest part, or the most controversial, or the part that seemed wrong, and then to give it a twist and polish it, and then like, oh look, there's this thing about me. And I know that when I was younger, I used to take pride in having opinions that were contrary to everybody else's, and then having a way of making it actually better than everyone else's. So you could start off by saying something horrible, and people would be like, what? And then you could like go, because this, that, and that, and people like, oh yeah, okay, you know. And I used to love doing that, and it was kind of cheeky, but you can't do that anymore, because you start with that opening line, and people don't go, what? They go, boop, walk, you know.
Delete.
Yeah, exactly. So I've stopped doing that, but I think that I do seek people who.
Well, it's a bit of a tragedy that you can't do that anymore.
I think so, yeah.
Well, that's what I was kind of referring to when I was saying in forget online communication, but person-to-person communication. You used to be able to be at a gathering or a party or whatever and say something outrageous and have everyone go like, what the fuck? And then you could kind of like, okay, this is what I actually mean. And people would actually listen. You know?
Yeah, exactly. People that actually made for interesting conversation. Like people actually shut up and, you know. Now, I don't know.
Was there nothing you could say? I'm sure there were some things you could say that people would be like, I can't speak with this person anymore. Without going too far into hyperbole.
But the other thing is that over time, this whole thing about what's happening in society versus what's happening in politics, right, has, in my opinion, just gotten so fucked up in the last decade or so, where there's almost nothing anymore that one can do in society which does not bear some kind of connection to something that is ideological or political. There's like, you can't really talk about life anymore without it having something to do with something ideological or political anymore.
Yeah.
Was that not the case in the past?
Society, in my opinion and my experience, has become a lot more ideological and political.
Very tangled,
yeah. To where now it's almost like it's practically one and the same. And I was even talking about this with the with the journalist who interviewed me for that documentary in France. And oh yeah, I did that anyway. On democracy. And yeah, I was just like, she told me that the thing that she interviewed me for, it was decided that they would not air it. And it didn't have to do with what, like, as far as I know, what part I played in it. Yeah. But generally, the whole the whole theme of the program changed, and it came down to this whole thing of basically they wanted to make the whole thing less about society and more about policy, aka politics. And initially, this program was supposed to be just Voices of Europe, just, you know, everyday people, Voices of Europe. And they were like, nah, we don't want to do that anymore. It's not political enough. And I was like, what?
How's democracy not political enough?
No, I know. But what they meant is they need to have politicians speaking about democracy. See? So, and I told her, I told her, I was like, I find this horrible. Because everything now, it's like you
it's a little bit pointless. I mean, you got plenty of that if you just...
I know, but it's just not enough. Everything's become political. So yeah. That's what I find. It's so also so hypercharged, all of these things. Like you can almost not talk about anything anymore. Try picking up any subject other than what's the weather, do you like alcohol, what's your favorite music? Like anything that is not just about entertainment, and see if it's not something that probably would trigger someone in a crowd of 20 people. Like,
well, this only works because of the internet now. Like, this could work without the internet, but I think this is the main factor why this has become such an issue. It's because people can have power over you as a group just by sitting at home behind a screen. And with all digital entertainment, with all the influence that digital marketing has,
I remember what it is.
Have all this power.
Your disgusting view.
Yes, I remember what it is.
Hey, tell.
Can you tell it?
I thought you said you could really enjoy all the conflict this will bring you. You know.
Yeah.
It will. It has to do with physical punishment for children.
Oh, that's not too bad.
Pro contra.
I don't think that's like something
pro contra.
Oh,
but what?
It's definitely pro. It's definitely pro.
You think?
All right, so you beat your kids.
You're pro whipping them.
Yeah, I don't believe that it's people that it's violence.
Textbook definition, violence, probably.
No, for me, violence is an act of anger. An act of, like, for example, is rugby? I mean, you say, is rugby a violent game?
Yeah.
It's a physical game. You can get no, but like for example, let's say the part where there's the ball in the middle and you're like pushing, and there's physical, like, body against body.
Okay.
That's not violent. There's not. Maybe later on in the game at some point, or maybe in other sports it'll happen more. Like maybe in hockey, you'll actually have the throw the gloves on the ground and start beating each other, and that's violence.
Well, we can actually ask.
So does violence require malice or malevolence?
Well, to me, Google says, just for the sake of clarity, that violence is behavior involving physical force intended to hurt, damage, or kill someone or something. Or it's strength of emotion or of a destructive natural force.
Violent wind, okay.
Okay, the first one. We're talking about the first one.
Yeah.
Intended to hurt.
The intent
you do intend to hurt a child if you
you intend to cause pain. Hurt is maybe damage. For me, hurt is sort of like damage. Like you don't intend to damage.
Search hurt.
But people that say that rugby is a violent sport, like you don't intend to hurt someone.
No. That's what Michael was just saying, is that it's physical, it's not violent, and that's true according to the textbook definition.
True. Okay, so I've learned something.
With intent, it's true that there, but I mean,
although if it is violent, the way that you slap a kid,
what about a dentist when if or a doctor has to do something physical, and it
yeah, but they're not doing it to intentionally hurt me.
Well, no, they are. They're hurting you, and it's intentional.
No.
Yeah.
The
motive is not to hurt.
Right. The motive isn't.
That's what they mean when intended.
Yes.
No, but you could you could twist this by saying they know they're hurting you, and they're intentionally doing that action, even if that's not the motive.
Yes, but the objective of performing that action is not to.
This doesn't say motivated to hurt. It says
no,
intended.
he's right. He's right, but the way he's phrasing it is similar to what I think you're doing when you are applying corporal punishment, in that you are doing something that you know will cause pain, but you're doing it for the better of something. And I totally believe that if you're angry at a child, even if they deserve a spanking, you should not give it to them. Okay, deserve. Even if a spanking would be in order, if you are angry, then it's like do not get near it, because
that's why whenever never mind.
Anyway,
I was about to.
Okay, the difference is that if it did not hurt, it would be of no use.
Exactly.
Well, if they're very young, it can, because then there's the shock factor.
I'm saying
it's there's the shock.
Yeah. But
and I
you
think
get
that
older, it's like,
actually,
that's all you got, and you gotta.
When kids have done that, I'm like, I don't get it. Do you want it to hurt? Like it's basically some.
If they do want it to hurt, then you can't hit them. Otherwise, they'll like it.
No, but I'm like, I'm doing this. It's symbolic. It's just supposed to shock you. It's supposed to make you think. Honestly, that's how I see it. It's supposed to make you think, and that's why people. It's to teach response. It's to teach a reaction response, like something that feels good, like hitting your baby brother. You know, if that feels good.
What the fuck?
Clearly, that's why kids do it. If you have the big brother that hits the little brother, and he gets that satisfaction from having hit his little brother, right? There needs to be something that ruins the pleasure. That pleasure needs to be ruined really quickly. I'm not talking about half an hour later. I'm talking about right then. You do that thing. Mommy says don't cross the road, and you decide to cross the road. Like, was that about to feel fun? Well, here, let me just ruin that for you, so that next time you don't cross the road, because next time you might actually get hit by a truck. Right, so I need to.
I guess that's fair. Yeah.
Take out your machete.
Yeah.
Did that feel fun?
Well, no.
But what if they're doing something that wasn't pleasurable, like being very stubborn?
They're doing it. They're being whatever it is. They're following their whim. And what you want to do is teach them to think one step ahead of their whim. And I feel like the threat of being hit. The threat of being hit. I mean, for me, like even as an adult, I haven't been spanked in years. But some days, yeah, miss it sometimes.
There are places.
Emmanuel can recommend you some.
Amber Heard, apparently.
Yeah, that's what's not in the recording. He was asking.
Let me finish the point I'm getting to. That there are days or situations where I am a nicer person simply because in the back of my head there's this fear of getting a spanking.
Really?
Like, it's not a real conscious fear. Like, oh, I could get a spanking, but there's that in
like
that
think twice.
The instinct to think twice that I know only comes from because when I think about it, I have no reason to fear saying something horrible because no one has ever punched me in the face. So it's not because I would believe it or not. So it's not that it's not that I've been hit so many times that now I'm scared to express myself. The buzz that's holding me back is simply some residual concept of consequence that I learned at a very young age, when maybe a lecture would have gone over my head, because it's conditioning, it's mental conditioning, it's a science. We know how it works. So for all the I know that there are like studies. I've had this conversation with people who basically think I'm evil, and like, so I'll like put out a disclaimer. Don't worry, everybody. I don't have children, so there's no one. You can't take anyone away from me. What?
That shouldn't make a difference.
What?
Whether you had or didn't, because you still have this view, and you wouldn't abandon it just if you had kids.
Yeah, but there's nothing you. No, I wouldn't. But it means that there's nothing. No one you can. There's no one suffering.
What if you're watching someone else's kids?
That really. First of all, it really has to do with what the parents believe about it. I would never. I would not. If they were for it, I would support. I would be in consistent with their parents. If I knew that I was taking care of the kids of parents who don't believe in it, then not my kids, not my problem. I'm not there to impose my standards on some kid. Like, if the parents don't care enough to teach them properly, it's not my job to care more than the parents.
That's fair.
Okay, what do you think deserves corporal punishment?
Oh goodness. Is mouthing off enough?
No, actually, I don't mind that. I mean, there's like really disrespectful mouthing off, but like just simple questioning my authority, I'm fine. I'm fine with that. A kid wants to test me, then in that case especially, a physical response is super inappropriate, because they have attacked me or challenged me intellectually. For me to take it out, that would be like totally wrong. That would be super bad.
I think that's very fair.
For me, it's something like when you tell a kid, don't touch that. That's dangerous, or that's fragile. You tell them once nicely, and then you see that look in their eye where they're testing you, like, what's going to happen if I do it anyway? And they do it anyway. Then it's like
watching you in their eye.
And the thing is this: I've taken care of kids that are like a real handful, and they test me right away. One slap, for example, that just simply says, "These are the rules. When you break the rules, this happens." And they love you afterwards. They're obedient. You have oriented them in a sense of security. It's not about bitch slapping them. This is like, and honestly, with the kids that I've had to do it with, it hurt. It hurt. It hurts me more than it hurts you. Like, I actually do. Like, I don't enjoy hitting people. If I did enjoy it, I'd be like, pull it all back. But I'm like, come on, we've been having fun together. Do you think do you think this is fun for me? Why did you do it? I gave you the warning. I asked you. I explained to you why not, and you did it anyway. And I told you I would do this. And now I have to do this. And I hope that once I've done this, you're gonna think about this next time, and then I do it, and then the problem's gone. There's I think there's like suddenly more a type of respect that and that's not a fear. It's not a fear of respect. It's not like, oh my God, he's gonna hit me, because it was never a violent. It was never an act of anger. It was never unwarned.
Right.
I think all those elements. Anyway, I don't really. That's not what I wanted to talk about.
All right, but I got a couple things back to send back to you. Number one, I've heard the line being drawn at anything that, like, any action that the child takes which could basically cause them injury, or cause someone else injury, or break something, essentially cause damage to themselves, to someone else, or to something. Like that, I've heard that line being drawn with respects to corporal punishment.
Where corporal punishment is less damaging, way less damaging and less painful than the consequence of them. Well, what could happen? For example, crossing the street.
Or
the street without that would be for me, yes, exactly, because a slap on the butt is way better than being rolled over by a car. Yes. That's basically. However, it requires more line drawing, because some would say disobedience is potentially damaging. For example, if I say don't cross the road and they cross the road, that's disobedience. They could get hit by a car. If I say don't eat that cookie, and they eat it anyway, what they're doing is disobeying an order. Which, if they did it when the order is don't cross the road, that would be a damaging. It's the principle.
The question for me, though, is when corporal punishment and when something else. And that was my second point. And that is, I found that with my own children, with other children as well, just being consistent and following through in whatever you say will be the consequence.
Definitely.
Is like 90% of the mission is just being consistent.
And you will find that if you are consistent, that the actual times that the corporal punishment is needed will just automatically. Like if you tell a kid, if you do that again, you're going in the corner for 5 minutes.
Right.
Even if you have to freaking hold them in the corner for the 5 minutes, and you're like, look, don't. And you know what I do? I mean, it's a bit manipulative, but I side with them even during the punishment. Like, come on, I know this is terrible, but we said 5 minutes and you disobeyed. It's only 2 minutes left. 2 minutes left. We can do this. We can do this.
Let's do it together.
Exactly. I do that whole.
You suffer with them.
I would go the other way. I would start throwing tomatoes at them, just
stand in the corner,
degrading them.
No.
Oh man, it's only been a minute. Damn.
I haven't gotten to the eggs yet.
Did you enjoy that cookie?
All these tomatoes to throw and so little time to throw them in. But I'm actually quite closed. I mean, on this idea, like, as in, it's not like one of those things I'm like, maybe I might be wrong. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm right about this, and I've had this discussion before, and I'm almost like I'm willing to die on this hill.
Okay.
Because, and I wouldn't bother dying on this hill for some kid that I don't care about. I would only die on this hill for a kid that I really want to see learn discipline, self-discipline. Yeah. Because for me, this kind of discipline is like putting a stick by a tree and forcing it to grow straight. It's basically you're programming their responses. You're programming responses. I succumb to this whim to disobey or to bully my little sister, whatever. I succumb to this, and pain, bad, not good, not fun, right? And then once you've done that, consistent, and you've taught them to, like, whoa, no, I remember that did not work out well for me. And you teach them to think ahead. You really set them up well for life.
How do you think the contrast is between stick and carrot? Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you were training a dog, I mean, no one trains their dog by whacking them. Actually, typically, if you do that to a dog, the dog becomes actually terrible. So they do it with treats.
Well, you do have to show it authority.
Absolutely. But you don't.
But
if
not
the dog
like
doesn't do something, you don't whack it.
Well, the whack, they have those collars that give you a little electric shock when the dog barks.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say the kid does something wrong.
Yeah. Remote control. Like, for me, that's the kind of thing. Like, I'm pretty sure that if I had,
I don't like that, by the way. I don't like that at all.
With the dog thing?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, what I mean, how painful is it? Does it make them yelp? Because that would be like.
No, I think.
Well, I think it's pain. At the end of the day, it is pain. I don't think that is a good way to teach a dog something.
The problem for me is that I've seen dogs trained properly, without those stupid things, and without pain, and they are like the dog in our house.
They're so much better trained.
They're so much better trained, and they do not bark, and they're trained not to bark, and they don't go through this. To me, those gadgets are just shortcuts. They're just like sloppy, barbaric shortcuts. What?
How were they trained?
The dogs brought like every 2 weeks to the dog school. So it's like...
So I think when you're training a dog, you do have to have a method for the stick and a method for the carrot, with using the carrot as much as possible. But if the dog is doing something you don't want it to do, you have to show it a negative feedback, which doesn't have to be pain.
I don't know how closely related our psychology is, though.
That's true.
To the psychology of dog. Dogs have like, dog experts.
I don't think it's
like there's a whole bunch of dog psychology, like even what time they eat and stuff like that has has an effect on that. So it's a little bit.
Yeah.
But to what extent would you try the carrot approach with a kid? Like,
I just try to like generally be a carrot kind of person. Basically, I like to praise kids whenever I see them making an effort. Like lots and lots of carrots, just and that the first punishment would actually just be what's the word?
The anomaly.
No, the retraction, not retraction, but the
retraction of the carrot.
Withholding the carrot would be like the first. Okay. Yeah, and then when it's premeditated offenses, then or intellectual offenses, still would not. Then you meet it with intellectual punishments like timeout or something like that.
But then you do run the risk of a kid just feigning doing something right, just to basically buy the praise. Like whenever they do something good, then they get a reward. Then they just.
I can tell by the tone in your voice that you see this as a bad thing, and not as teaching them how to navigate. I was going to say manipulate. How to navigate through a social situation.
Because if you remove the reward and they're met with neutrality, and then they stop doing the good thing, well, life isn't always going to reward you immediately for doing the good thing.
Not immediately, but you want to kind of instill the concept of what is good, or what you're expecting and what you're going to praise.
Like I have a problem with my own kids, the concept of could you do this and this chore and then I'll give you $5 or whatever. I have a problem with that because there are just things in life that one has to do, right?
Right. And the reward for them is the fact that you did them. Like, correct. The fact that the reward for cleaning the room is that you have a clean room.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's the lack of the negative outcome if you don't do it.
Yeah, and it's more you reward the things that are outside of that are on top of that.
When I talk about carrots, I'm not necessarily talking about $5. I'm like,
carrots.
Can you help? Exactly. No, but like, can you help? Your mom cut the vegetables for dinner, and the reward is. Yeah, the reward is now you get to eat the carrots. No. The reward is, I would make a point to praise them, like, oh wow, this is so delicious, such a good job, that get those kind of carrots, just appreciation,
positive reinforcement,
not actual
physical treats.
Not physical treats. No.
M&Ms. Put it on its nose. See?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Every dog trainer with their kid. Well, I have a question that takes us back a little bit more to the original topic. We've started loosely comparing Amber Heard and Johnny Depp to children.
Carrots. Lots of carrots.
With the public reaction to this, it has been quite an entertaining case, at least for me. And initially, I kind of looked at it just as entertainment, and in a lot of cases, it was really funny. And I peeked into a video from Russell Brand where he was basically saying it's really sad how everyone is just viewing it as entertainment and not recognizing how unfortunate this is. Like that these are actual people really going through it, and everyone's just laughing at them. What do you guys think about how it seems the most of the public is basically making a laughing stock out of this, at least online?
I'd have to give that some.
Are they?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean,
they seem to be taking it pretty seriously. Yeah. Too seriously.
Definitely the most successful pieces of content in the algorithm are ones that are basically taking the piss a little bit.
I mean, that's just par for the course, isn't it? I mean, celebrity shit isn't that just how it goes?
Sure, but that's not right.
Is it not?
Well, yeah, just because they're celebrities, it doesn't make them any less.
Well, it's also, I think, how the media plays it out, right? It's sort of this ripple effect, how the media treats it, and I think the media treats it also like a goof. They just, they're not
legacy media?
Yeah,
I haven't seen much of what they've done.
Well, I haven't seen any legacy media pulling out any deep truths or philosophy or anything. It's like it's all very surface level stuff. It's just riffraff.
Because that doesn't sell, I suppose.
Yeah, and it's also hard. It's work.
Yeah, that's a good. I mean, he's definitely got a point. That it's sad what we're seeing. I didn't see that video, but he had this similar reaction with the whole Will Smith and Chris Rock thing.
Yeah, he did.
Like, this was just sad. Like, one actor that I really love and admire, like, slapped another actor that I really love and admire, and like, this is just sad. Like, broken people who are going, and yeah, it's kind of the same thing here. It is just sad. Maybe we are so tired of how sad the world is that it's like all we can do now is laugh. Like, because we just want to laugh fair. because otherwise, what, are we gonna cry for them? Like,
I think this stuff has really smashed a lot of, let's say, idols in people's heads about these people. The whole Will Smith thing. I mean, you saw this guy just losing his shit, and
he just so doesn't look like somebody that loses their shit.
No,
he seems like such a
And also this stuff that was horrible. All this, personal information that came out from this whole case, and I think it has, and I hope it continues to sort of destroy this, like you were saying, this religious image of celebrity. That these people are somehow outside the realm of what the average person goes through. They aren't.
I mean, when people think about celebrities, they generally think about someone who has a lot of influence and a lot of money, and thus they have so much more control over their lives than someone who, works a 9-to-5. And it's hard to think about them being a victim. You always think about them sort of living up on the cloud and
Ivory
being
Tower.
in stardom and flashing lights. And then when you get these little glimpses into how their lives are personally, they're like, oh, they're also fucked up.
Like, how many celebrities have been married or partnered with how many different people and have kids with them and all? I'm like, that's not like, Michael, what you were saying before about how people, how you don't look to celebrities for moral anything, and like, that's exactly right. I mean, why would you? The vast majority of them seem pretty fucked up.
Just no reason. I mean, I guess I know talented people, and they're kind of some of the worst. In fact, if it weren't for their talents, there'd be no space for them in most societies, like their talent sort of makes room for them because often they're just really difficult people. So that's just not the way I look at talented people. I respect talented people for their talent.
Right.
And I respect kind people for their kindness. I respect wise people for their wisdom. I respect people for their quality, but I don't respect them categorically. Like, oh, you have this quality, so I respect you. And now, like, then there's this conflict when you have a weakness. Like, what's this going to do to, like, how do I justify the respect I have for your quality with the disdain I have for your problem? And like, short circuit. Like, no, for me, it's super simple. Like, I respect you for this, and I'm definitely despise you for that. And I can do both at the same time. And there's no conflict for me. For me, that's consistent. I'm super comfortable with doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't, admire a plumber for his views on, I don't know, saving the planet.
Well, what if he's got really good ones?
Well, you don't know, but you wouldn't, you admire a plumber for his plumbing.
What if he's a really shit plumber?
Well, then you fuck off.
You don't know either.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe.
Then you don't admire him at all.
Exactly.
No. Like, for me, I'll admire somebody for some traits.
Who's someone that you really admire?
I mean, I try to.
Besides yourself.
I try to admire to find the admirable in most people, and that makes I'm not just like I also look for the negative because I just need to know the world around me. I need to know what I can trust somebody for and what I can trust them for negatively. Like, I trust them because they will always be on time. They will work hard. They deliver when they make a promise, blah, blah, blah. But they don't keep secrets very well. So it means I can trust them for this and better not trust them for that. And when you do that, you set realistic expectations for people. Because I have it happens a lot where people come to me with like crying, like, I thought they were my friend. They were always like this, that, and that. But then this happened and they did that. Well, like, you know that about them. You know that they have that weakness. So you should have built that into your...
Or you don't. And then the question is, how,
which one?
Like, what you were saying, like, how honest were you with them and with you?
Yeah.
Right. But I mean, generally, when you have a friend, everyone knows that, I mean, most of their friends' weaknesses. Like, I'm sure if I asked you, you could tell me what his weaknesses are. Like, what would you trust him for, for his strengths? And what would you kind of know? Like, hey, I better not, like, put too much of that on him because that's not something... Yeah, exactly. Right. Yes, precisely. And it just sets you with realistic... you can accept somebody and I can call somebody a really good friend, even though I know that they have some really shitty aspects to them. But it's like, so do I. And I like it when people respect me for what I can do well. And yeah, sure, try to hold me to a higher standard for my weak areas, but you don't be in a delusional state about my personality. Like, a real friend should know, like, that. Yeah. Anyway.
Do you have anyone who you can think of who you exceptionally admire?
Exceptionally admire.
Doesn't have to be someone alive, like even in history or
someone who stands out, at least.
Do you?
I would have to say that admiration. I mean, admiration. Real admiration that's not just superficial. I would need to know that person. Like, there are people that seem to be things that I like. I really like Elon Musk because he seems like the kind of person that like, I don't know, Elon Musk.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because he seems like the kind of person that when I was a kid, or when I'm having a conversation and I say, if I was a millionaire, I'd build rockets, or if I would invent, electric cars, or, like, he basically does all the things that I would say that I would do if I was a millionaire. So I don't know what he's actually like as a person, so I can't say that I admire him, but I like the idea of him.
I would con people into driving in my stupid tunnels.
Yeah, I don't know.
If I was a millionaire, I'd buy Twitter.
No, but come on.
It's actually realistic.
Like when you're sucking a straw and you're seeing the little juice go up and down. You're 6 years old and you think, can you imagine if there was a tunnel and you could like suck the train through the tunnel? You know, that would be so cool. And if I was rich, if I had if I was at $1 million, you know, or you have that little thing you blow the thing out and you're like, oh my god, I wonder what would happen if you had like a big tunnel and you were so fat.
So he's a rich child.
He's yeah, and I don't know. I like.
Speaking
that.
of him, he was a little bit involved in the case, wasn't he? In the trial.
Yeah, but I don't know
that
why.
was so weird.
Yeah,
like hearing about him and James Franco and shit. It's like...
There are photos of him and Amber Heard when they were dating, and he's like got these mysterious bruises on him and stuff like that.
Real?
No way.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Maybe she's just super kinky and
maybe he had his bruise kit.
Maybe she spilt some on it. I don't know. Yeah, but you see, here we are laughing about it. It's terrible.
Well, do we have any closing statements?
Marks?
What about you? What's your person of admiration?
I'm really...
It's not me.
So
we don't admire anyone.
I mean, there's people that I admire, but there's no one in particular that comes to mind that I would say.
But I think that's good. I think that's good because it just means that you haven't put that box on someone as someone I admire.
Moses.
But like any name, but any name that I give you, you could probably think of something you admire about them. I mean, of somebody that you know. So the fact that you don't think of somebody as someone I admire means that if they make a mistake, it won't dash that box.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
So I kind of think that's healthy.
Like I can even say that I admire Karl Marx, but you know what I mean? Like
everyone has admirable qualities.
Right. I can say I admire a guy like him, and there are areas that I can admire about him, like the way that he was. His rethinking about the whole thing was kind of like, okay, wow. But that doesn't mean that I agree with him. So I can admire someone without saying I sign off on everything that they've done and said and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, not exceptionally. I'm not a Marxist. Hashtag.
I was about to.
Yeah.
That needed to be said.
Pull the lever. The floor opens.
All right. Well, I believe we're at time. So
cool.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on again and joining us for the first episode of season 2. Yay!
Yeah.
My pleasure. I think I did a lot better as far as ending my sentences and stuff. I don't think I'll be flooding the comments with links. Yeah,
this is what I meant.
That was terrible. So frustrating. Yeah.
If you want to plug something,
I don't feel like I don't feel like I need to this time. Last time I really did. I felt. Thanks for that short video. That was
that was brilliant.
My brightest hour there, just encapsulated. No, actually, yes.
That did pretty well on TikTok, actually.
Did it? Oh my god. The thing is that's exactly. It was for me. It was a perfect example, simply because there was no relation. I was looking for something that had no relation because we're talking about empathy, and my very point was that if you have nothing to relate to, for example, and I picked something that is completely unrelated, stamp collection, and then the joke was, "Oh, you think they're related?" And I was like, "No, I mean, I don't know, whatever." Yeah, I had a few conversations by myself later on about that, like.
Can't believe you said that.
Yeah.
Well.
Yes.
Right.
From you,
I'm all good.
All good.
Looking
all right.
Forward
well,
to the weekend.
Thanks everyone for watching. And if you want to watch the next week's one, we'll be in the same place. You know where to find us. You can also find us on other places. Or you can go on TikTok and watch the clip that we were just talking about. Very funny. Very, very, very funny. We're also on Instagram and pretty much everywhere else where you can navigate to for your internet fix. And yeah, any feedback, comments.
Like, share, subscribe, do all that stuff if you care.
Do internet things with us. Anything.
Seek conflict with us.
Notice us.
We will give you many
seek
carrots.
Conflict with us. Insult us. Belittle us.
We are carrot people.
That's gonna be your next.
Yeah, the carrot people. Good times. All right. Have a good night, everyone.
All right. Have a nice evening. Yeah.
Thanks. You too. Bye bye.